Welcome to the Motivation Without the Hype podcast with your host, Gez Perez. He's an author, high-performance coach, and motivational speaker. This show brings you inspiring messages and interviews to unleash your greatness in life and in business. So let's get started.
Hi everyone, welcome to Motivation Without the Hype podcast show. My name is Gez Perez, a former procrastinator into an action taker. We bring you inspirational messages and interviews, including motivational insights, tips, principles, and proven strategies that you can take action without the hype in unleashing your greatness in life and in business. Now, listeners, we appreciate you plugging in and spending time with us. We have a very special guest, and I'm super grateful to have him on our show, in our podcast show, in Motivation with That Hype. His name is Gersom Santos. He is the founder of Gersom Santos Productions, a creative enterprise specializing in wedding and lifestyle photography. He has over 12 years of experience in creative business and event industry, and has excelled with over 14 years of experience in the corporate sector within federal, state, and local government offices. Now, after working in government roles throughout his 20s, he's made a huge career transition in becoming a sales professional, from international travel specialist at Flight Center to luxury vehicle sales for Mercedes-Benz and Lamborghini. He's since furthered his passion in mentoring others to success, recently working as an advisory and engagement capacity for the education sector. His photography work has been featured in several magazines, and he has traveled and spoken at seminars internationally, influencing and encouraging younger people or younger generation for personal growth and self-mastery. And as an experienced musician and performer, he has a distinctive ability in bringing people and their talents together, influencing like-minded individuals to pursue their goals and enhance the quality of life. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Gersom Santos. Guys, tell you what, Gersom Santos is a very special guest of mine, and it's such an honor to have him on our show because I've known Gersom since he was in diapers. We grew up together since we're babies, and now where we are right now. And so not only we want to hear his story and what he's done, but look and hear of his accolades and milestones as he has achieved. And we want to compress that knowledge and insights and what he has experienced in life and his successes. And I know that today we're going to learn so much from him. So Gersom, to those who don't know you yet, I know you personally because you're an awesome human being. But those who don't know you yet, but want to know you, who you are, what you do, and go for it.
As it really is an opportunity to even just be invited to a show like this. But I think, formalities aside, someone like you has always been an inspiration to me. So I really thank you for this opportunity. This is something that you walk the talk, motivation without the hype. And I've seen it firsthand. To those that are listening and watching, this is something that has been truly a part of our lifestyle. Me and Gez, of course, he mentioned earlier that we did grow up together since we were babies to boys and boys to men, as we like to call it. A lot of the things that we were into were, much like any other boy. We were into Sega Mega Drive, we were into Duck Hunt, we were into all sorts of video games, and that music, playing basketball just by ourselves and making up plays. We would be in my backyard when I used to live in Bankstown, and Gez was really somebody that, was more than just a best friend. He was a brother. He was who has always been somebody that understood the other side of me. And, this is a show, or at least a podcast, about what it is to be passionate, what it is to be motivated, and what it is to be someone that has that self-belief. And I don't claim to have this all figured out. This is not something that I was born with, but I'll give a quick snippet of where I came from, Gez. What can I say? It was a privilege to being raised in a hardworking family. Gez knows all about our family and what it was for our parents to set a to really set that standard. Yes, in ministry, at a very young age, and what it meant to build and serve others. And this was what we were about. And if you don't already know, this was something that we grew up in. Gez and I had the opportunity to lead music for the masses. And this is really all part of building a service in founding communities. And these are communities in the western suburbs where we would be able to really reach out people to those that were in need. And that was really something that played a big role in my life, really seeing what it was on the other side of, what it is to have, or at least come from a broken home, or to be dependent on, drugs, to be dependent on vices that limit your potential. And, we had the opportunity to help these people in finding this purpose. And, thankfully, music was a really good distraction for us at a very early age. And it was all part of the creative building blocks in my life. It would often lead to challenges for myself in going outside my comfort zone. And, much like with any child, growing up in the western suburbs, there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of things that cause us to be led astray. But thankfully, having the opportunity to be, in a school that obviously led music as a primary point of distraction, it was, for me, it was a big distraction. I did a lot better in my music courses than I did in any other subject. But out of all the things that I'm really thankful for my childhood, it would be for the mentors, the people that really truly believed in me, and music was just that platform. And thankfully, I've made that into somewhat of a passion that led to leading certain albums where we'd release it to service the people. We performed in front of thousands, and we did this overseas in Philippines for festivals. And these are all successes that I had, but it wasn't without the tutelage and the mentorship of the people that I surrounded myself by. And I think that is a point that I kind of want to drive today, Gez. That it's we can be come from any sort of background. Whether you come from a background that is very wealthy, or you can come from a background where you had nothing growing up, or you came from a broken home. This is something that we all kind of level with, and that's being human. And having that, limitations and self-doubt that will plague you throughout your creative and creative mindset and pursuits that you might have. And I'm really grateful for those people that really helped me to get to where I am today. And, Gez mentioned earlier about my career, and that was some intro, so thanks, Gez. I've had some pretty good successes in career transitions, and really where I can stem that from was being adaptable and to the market, and finding pathways to success through really knowing myself, and where I can really benefit, and where will I be just wasting my time. And you know what, I've made a lot of mistakes as well, but I think it was really from that old saying, you got to give everything a try at least once. You won't know until you try, right? And we grew up with that mindset very early on, and so we tried everything. We did everything that we could. So we knew many ways to fail, and also certain ways to succeed. I think through that, Gez, it was an opportunity to lead into my professional life. I moved into the government sector pretty early on. I was about 19. I remember that time when I saw somebody and he was driving a really nice car. I go, oh, hey, where do you work? And at the time I was only fresh out of high school. I was working with my hands, so I found a trade. And it was really interesting to see somebody at such a young age. I thought at the time, I think it was around 25. It's like, oh yeah, I work for the government. I'm like, oh, cool. I want to work for the government too. And I suppose being naive, that was something that helped me also just go for it. it's not like I knew that there would be 50 other applicants. It's not like I knew that there would be a whole day of testing, and this was the first time I had ever applied for a corporate role, much less a government role. And it was successful in the end. And by the time I reached 21, I was already moved on to a couple of integral roles within the government, and it led to an opportunity to, do some trips overseas. I had the privilege of living in Singapore for a month or two, and that taught me a lot about what it is to really be or have independence. And I think, when you're growing up in your early 20s and you're living at home, a lot of that independence nowadays is taken away from you because mom and dad don't want you to go out of the house until you're married. And thankfully, that really didn't extend towards me. My parents really encouraged independence, even from a young age. Having that opportunity to go overseas and do the things that we got to do, it was really that turning point for myself to say, hey, you know what, you can do anything you want to do, and it's really just up to you and whether or not you want to do it. That led to, of course, a crescendo, and this is something completely more about the personal side, and that was actually starting a business. And finding a business is something that is inherently a part of you. And Gez mentioned that I've worked in the creative business field for over 12 years, and it was something that I really just fell in love with accidentally. It was an opportunity for me to kind of stop my music. I was, we were wedding singers at the time, and this was in 2011, and we had a team that was very successful. We were doing a lot of gigs here and there, but we decided to wrap it up at the end of 2011 so we can focus on our other pursuits, and that's when I started my degree in sound engineering, and oddly enough, that led to further successes in music. But really, I guess I wasn't in love with it anymore, and that's how photography came along, Gez. And photography was really just a means to be at people's parties, to be honest. When you have a camera, it's kind of like, yeah, cool, you're part of the festivities, right? And what's really important within the event industry, of course, is that you're a people person. You're naturally inclined to have fun with these people, as well as understand how people work, and adapting to, how events work, really, which is usually unpredictable. And thankfully, that led to more successes. I remember the first event I charged, Gez, was in 2008, actually. So this was a little bit before I even wrapped up music. And what we did was, I used to post photos on Facebook. So it would always be like photos of my nieces, it would be photos of my family. And I remember one of my workmates who were like, hey, Gersom, do you mind shooting my brother's 18th birthday? And it was such a huge thing for me to be like, oh, I don't know, you obviously believe in me enough to take photos at a pretty, big event. This is an 18th birthday. It wasn't like 10 people. It was probably 150. And using that opportunity to say yes, rather than being, you know what, I don't think I can, and was probably the key to that, gaining momentum. And thankfully, she paid me as well. So I made $20 an hour from that particular job. And you know what? The money wasn't really it. It was really just having that opportunity to do something exciting, creative. And that kind of catapulted the business into a regular thing. And essentially by 2011, I had already, transitioned from $20 an hour to let's say $50 or $80 an hour, and that took a lot of eliminating my self-doubt. We oftentimes, when in business, I hope that people that are in business that are listening, sometimes you feel that you're not good enough to, you're probably already started your business, but you don't know whether or not you're worth that much. And then some people that are over confident, and then they price themselves out of the market. There's two sides. But yeah, the vast majority, and that was me as well, Jez. I really was hoping that people would just hire me just for the sake of hiring me. So I priced myself accordingly, and it took a while for me to really believe in myself, and that really just a story of yeah, how you can really find yourself when people believe in you, and sometimes you don't believe in yourself.
Absolutely. And you've gone through a major journey, um, through the teens, all through the way to where you
Absolutely.
are right now. And every season of your life, you're able to rise above it. And I know Gersom personally because he's my best friend. And again, it's such an honor to be him in our show. But the people that are actually listening and watching this are gonna get so much nuggets because we normally don't share such insights where we are going through some personal things in our lives, and you've gone through each seasons, phases, whether it's through through every avenue of your career, but you're able to build a resilient mindset. And I know there are people out there who actually are facing a lot of trials and tribulations and things in their life where they don't have any purpose and they're just living life as life. But for you, you kind of find your way and you're still living with purpose. Just how do you build a mindset and how important is mindset? And through your experiences that you've seen in your own personal life or even your business, because you're able to utilize your giftings, you're able to utilize the the music, the creativity, and you're able to work something like you're able to put nothing into something. You're able to build something that's out of thin air, and then money comes along. But it's just not the mechanics, that's the physical side, but it's right here. How important is mindset?
It's a good question. And it's funny because I call you Tol, but I'll call you Jess. Parito, yeah, mate. And this is the thing. Mindset has always been interesting question to begin with. I think there's rewards and there's challenges that come with having a relentless mindset. And yeah, so I say, there's rewards and challenges. Okay, so what's the reward of being relentless, Jez? I think the reward of being relentless is that there is a pursuit that you're trying to achieve, or you're running this race. No matter what injury you have an ability to continue persevering. And how do you do that? It's because something happened to you. Something caused you to possibly be hurt in the past. Something has stopped you momentarily, but you got back up. And that could be a number of things. It could have been a hard childhood. It could have been somebody in your life that said, hey, Jez, you can't do it. And there's also all these things that really limit us. And having that relentless mindset, you become somebody that hears the opposite. And these naysayers, these haters, we call them. We have an ability to tune them out. We can't even hear what they're saying. So that is the reward. We can persevere, run the race. You can shoot us. You can bring us down. You can debilitate our creativity or stop our flow. But I'm gonna get back up. And I'm reminded of. I have a tattoo on my right arm, and I remember getting that at the time when my parents divorced. And it says, "When I fall, I shall arise." That's from the book of Micah 7:8. And what did that mean to me, and what does that still mean to me? When I fall, I shall arise. So it's not if I fall, it's when I do, and I will. This will be something that I will continually experience throughout my life. And through that experience of seeing no child should ever be a child of divorce, but it was something that I had to be relentless about my pursuit of what I should do with my life and where my purpose lied. And it wasn't lying in some cycle where I would limit myself and limit my growth because I was so hurt by what had happened, but it was a platform. And that's really how I really got into building my business. So I said there was reward and there's also challenges. There's challenges to having a relentless mindset. And part of the challenges is sometimes you don't know when to quit. And so part of being adaptable, and this is another word that I'll introduce, adaptability. And you hear that in our special forces, the SAS or the SEAL team. They're adaptable in all situations because you don't know. There's a lot of unpredictability, and because you're so relentless, you don't know when to stop. And that also can be a challenge because it could be at the detriment of the relationships in your life. Remember, you're a human. You're not somebody that was called to be isolated or called to be alone. And this is why we thrive off partnerships. We thrive off people that will able to listen to us and encourage us. It's because we need that people. We need people. So being relentless has that challenge, and I feel that one of the biggest challenges for me at the time of being relentless was at the cost of relationships. But you know what? It was a learning lesson. It's something that I can feel that for now, I understood my limit, Gez. And one other thing I want to quickly just tell you about having a good mindset is also understanding your own limits. There is self-belief, but also you have self-doubt. And in the context of starting a business, I've been trying to mentor somebody that's trying to build their business. And how do they get to that point where they can be autonomous with the way they run things? And you know what it was? Jez, it was about social validation and constantly needing approval. And you know what? Jez, you mentioned earlier at the beginning of the podcast, you were a former procrastinator. So most people would have that procrastination when it comes to having social validation. What does that mean? Oh, maybe I won't start my business yet, Tol, because it's hard for me to fathom what the world will say about me or what my friends might say about me, whether it be linked to a social media post. I'm starting my business or I'm promoting my services. Oh, wait, nobody liked it. Or you're thinking in your head, you're creating stories, and this leads, which essentially is linked to a fear of social rejection, and of course can have or stem from anxiety. So all I'm saying is right now, remind yourself, whoever you are, you have inherent value, and what others think of you does not define you. So that's what I feel about having a relentless mindset.
That's powerful, because mindset, it's one of the key drivers for success, because you're either stuck
Yep.
in a rut and having victimization, or you have this victorious mindset, a champion's mindset, that regardless. And if you think about a boxer, right? A boxer who trains, and they're all leading to the championship fight. But in between that comes with training, with setbacks, with a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
However, their mindset continues to say, you know what, despite of all
Yep.
this, I'm going to
Absolutely.
fight through it. And that's what I see in your life, though, is, you fought through every season, and you're still, though you fall, you arise, and that's a powerful statement right there. There are going to be listeners here in this podcast who are tuning in, and, they have aspirations, they have dreams, they have goals, and they really want to improve their lives. How do you, and you said it real perfectly. I like how, a lot of people want self-validation. How do you share your strategies, or someone who doesn't have self-belief inside of them? What would you tell them, and how you can actually reverse engineer that from that to actually turning into their own self-belief, that they actually
Well,
can
okay,
do it?
that's a big one, Jez, because we have, or at least come from a generation where everything is exposed now. And what do I mean by that? When I started my business, Facebook was in its infancy, so it wasn't so common for people to feel social anxiety from a digital point of view. Well, at least in my perspective. And so a lot of what people are experiencing nowadays, or at least what I've witnessed myself, is that they lose their value in the sea of comparison. What do I mean by that? They'll be scrolling through Instagram, they're looking for all the tags that are about their business, and straight away, Facebook, it's constant. And it will, what does that do? It continues to eat away at your confidence. And you might have had very little confidence to begin with, but it was maybe because maybe a best friend or a mentor or somebody that believes in you say, hey, you really should start this business. You should really do this. And then what happens, Jez? Usually, one of the main things that happens is that we tell ourselves certain things that stop us from doing it straight away. I'm just not ready. It's not time. There's like, and then when you finally start to do it, it's like, oh, but there's so much people better than me. Oh, I just saw how much people are charging for that. I don't think I could ever charge for that. And all of these things that limit you.
And there are people right now that's actually listening, that actually going through that negative self-talk, right? Everything you're saying right now, people are actually experiencing that.
And this is very recent for me in terms of being able to help people build their businesses through listening to themselves, make all these excuses, cut the noise, and then believe in the people, or at least be mentored by the people that can support you from day one. Okay, so of course, in any business, there's going to be a lot of advice. I usually I don't like giving advice unless it's something myself. Yeah, if I hadn't experienced it, there's no point of me trying to give you any sort of advice. Or don't give advice unless it's something that they want, because then it's unwarranted. Look, the bottom line is, I've always believed not everyone was made for the 9 to 5 life, right? Some people have a limit to how much they can, let's call it, work or feel productive. And, these are things that they need to work through on their own, their personality, their upbringing, their limitations. So it's not something that I can simply cover in a conversation right now, because this is more in-depth for them. Every person is different. But I think in the same manner, not everyone is fit for the challenges of business.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think there's a lot of confusion out there. It's like people love their careers, and that's awesome. Some people don't love their careers and want to start their own business. Everyone's all different. But at the end of the day, are you being fulfilled? Are you happy with the job that you're doing right now? Does it make you heart sing? Do you wake up the next day knowing that you're fulfilled? Like, okay, cool, I'm gonna make a difference. I'm gonna add value to people's lives. I'm making a difference in an organization because their causes, their vision, their purpose, I'm actually aligned to that. Maybe some people are not cut up for that, and that's okay. So they start their own business. So I think a lot of people are kind of in a mixed bag. Gersom, how do you help someone to be congruent with their values, knowing that this is who they are, this is what and again, it all stems by having clarity and certainty and confidence among themselves. But how do you get congruent with your values?
So
how important is that?
You're either content with what you do. Okay, so you fall into either one of two baskets. You're either content with what you do, or you yearn for something greater. And you'll see many instances of Fortune 500 companies, even successful businesses that have been built within the last year. They always feel a need, or at least there's something that they feel passionate enough about to do something about. We come from a generation now that if something is not working, then we just buy another one. It's a very throwaway society, whether it be electronics or whether it be relationships. We are in a position now to really utilize our skills. However, we don't even ask those basic questions. For example, if it was for a career, Jez, what is the key to getting that promotion? A lot of what people would say, well, then it just takes hard work. I got to stay back late. I got to suck up to the boss. And probably, hopefully, that manager quits, And so you don't really have a complete picture of what it is to ascend from those limitations. And these are limitations that sometimes you can't control. You can't control if somebody will quit. But you know what you can control? You can control your attitude towards that situation, so that when you come into work, despite that job being so mundane, let's say, it's something that is not entirely something you're passionate about, why can't you achieve excellence in everything that you do? Because, and I'll tell you an exact story of how I achieved that, and this is really just, just a quick example. I was completely sick and tired of working in the corporate game. I was really over it, and I needed a change, and I needed something new, and so I just quit, and then I found a role in Mercedes-Benz, starting at the very bottom, and I started off as a detailer. So that was pretty much the lowest of the low. Inside this dealership, the most busiest one, I'd say in the Southern Hemisphere. It's obviously the biggest one. And it was a real baptism of fire, to be working somewhere where they would be pushing out, 300 cars a month. So a place like this, a complete mammoth task, a completely different industry, why did it matter for me to move anywhere? It was just maybe it was just a way for me to lose weight, because I had already been working in government for so long, being a corporate monkey, until and then you just sit at the desk and you get fat. And everybody that works in an office knows exactly what I'm talking about. Now that we work from home, we get even fatter. Anyway, I was cleaning these cars, but with every single vehicle that came my way, and these would be really, really nice, big dollar cars, I was just like, man, one day this is something that I will ascend from. I believed in myself enough to say that this is going to be temporary. I need to do something else with my life. What is the key to getting that promotion? Hey, it was doing one step at a time. And what was that? Just showing up, getting the job done. It's a pretty straightforward formula. Get the job done and have a good attitude about it, because you know what? Not everyone is out to get you, by the way. You're not the center of everyone's world. You're not going to be the one person that always has the wrong end of the stick. I think we need to eliminate that self-doubt. We need to eliminate those conversations that we have with ourselves and just get on with the job. You are entitled to ascend. Are you going to get it? Is this something a pattern that you can see in your life? If you keep thinking all the previous jobs that you had in your life, Gez, and you were like, you know what, I didn't like that boss, I didn't like that boss, I didn't like that boss. You know what, I think you might need to look in the mirror. There might have been a pattern, and I'm not trying to offend anyone. I think the truth is we have so quickly ended our, let's say, careers or relationships or wherever because we want to blame the other person.
Ooh. And it's easy to blame, right? It's easy to
Yes.
put an excuse and blame someone else rather than looking in the mirror. So you said it perfectly before, is that you cannot control what's outside, but you can actually
Yes.
control what's from within. And that's
Absolutely.
your attitude, right? It's what you do now. And a lot of people tend to think of their current
Okay.
circumstance as in and that's how they get stuck, but they don't see the future. They don't see
They have
what
the
they're going to
blinders
become,
on.
right? And so look, absolutely, and I think they need to remove that and see what's on the other side. It's like, in order for you to conquer land, right, in between there's a battle, right? In order for you to conquer that land, in between it, there's going to be a battle, and without you really stepping out, and I think a lot of people like to just step in, is because it's easy to blame. They're stuck in victimization, and they just see it just right there. And you mentioned earlier on our podcast about how important it is to have a supporting network, people that actually believe in you, to have that supporting network, because we live in a
Yes.
negative world that everything's all negative, right? But if just with one spark of, I'm not inspiration, one spark of belief,
Yep.
of that seed, that lights the flame,
Absolutely.
right? So share us your journey. I mean, like you mentioned about the bottom of the bottom, and I know people are feeling that right now. How did you take it to the next level? was there patience? Was there perseverance and persistence? How did you go from a detailer to the next step?
You know,
How did you do that?
I only use Mercedes Benz, or at least that particular example, as purely just a way to show that in a career, I have never always had a high and lofty position. I, I value those that are in our service industry. These people work very hard to do what they need to do, and I've been there in the front lines. So it's not something that is a limitation. But what was the reason why I decided that this is not something I want to stay in? Okay, so let's talk about a couple of principles that will help you ascend. I think dreaming big. Okay, so when people say, okay, what's dreaming big? Oh, yeah, like what am I dreaming about? I think for me, I was obsessed about the end result. I was obsessed about doing something much more than what I was already doing. So where did I want to be? Did I want to do this for the next month or two? No. I wanted to get into a position where I would be driving these things, be in an income where I could easily own one. And income and money, they're all tools. I've never put that kind of value on money, because I've never been of feeling like that money I needed. And that's what changed my perspective on how it was to earn money, because I feel that for me, when it comes to anything that involves income, I can always double it. And it's a crazy thought. How can you say that? How can you say that you could just double your money? And I'm not a gambling man. I'm not somebody that does that. But it was all about obsessing about the end result. Okay, so remembering that money in your career or business is merely just a tool, Jez. So really, it's just a quantitative measure of your income, but it isn't the reason for your success. So the reason for my success wasn't based on the position or the income, but it was about the purpose that I had. I think Will Smith said it good. He said, when it comes to about purpose, he said, I want to be in a world, sorry, I want the world to be a better place because I was here. I want the world to be a better place because I was here. It's big, right? Because you're trying to understand. Okay, so how does this feed into that dream? Okay, so dream big. Next thing, be proactive. Okay, so what's the difference between being proactive and being somebody that is not proactive? Okay, so someone that's passive. Well, typically someone that is proactive is somebody that takes action on the things that matter, Jez. The things that matter for your life are the difference by the things that are trivial, the things that you can't change. For example, you can't change the government, or at least you can't change, of course, with your votes, of course, but you can't change what's happening specifically unless you had an influencing point. But, there's things that we can't change. We can't change the weather, but we can change our habits. We can change the things that affect us negatively. We can change our surroundings. We can change the books we read. We can change the people we hang around. Be proactive. And then finally, my last thought is all things are created twice. First thing is in the mind. And then the second one is in reality. So first thing you create in your mind is that thought. Okay, I want to have a six-pack. And thankfully I haven't had that thought. So I'm enjoying my non-six-pack. But I think with these things will beget into new other thoughts. So what are the efforts that I can do to improve my time effectively? Okay, so what is holding you back? That's a question. Because, like I said, all things are created twice. First in the mind, then in reality. So if I say it, will it be? Or will I let it just be? Okay, so consider yourself as and your time and use it effectively so you can achieve those goals, those dreams, those career aspirations. And I say that with a bit of wisdom, because also when you say that I should use my time effectively, don't neglect the people that you love. Okay, because it's very easy for our C-level um, professionals like CEOs to neglect time with their family because they have so much commitment invested to the business. Which, of course, there's always time for that. And I think I draw this from Jack Ma. He says, in your 20s, you should be learning to make those mistakes. Work for a big company, and learn the tricks of the trade. And in your 30s, start to build upon those skills so you can aim to achieve a higher position. But these are all different parts of wisdom in different people's lives. So wherever you can, be proactive, dream big, and remember to use your time effectively.
Awesome. Now the last question is this, guys. If you got to rewind this again because there's so many principles, insights, and just golden nuggets. Final question for Mr. Gersom Santos. What is your meaning of motivation without the hype, and how do you use motivation for your personal success?
2020 was a huge year, Jez, and a huge in a sense where I was unemployed for about 3 months of it. Unemployed from my 9 to 5 job, of course, but I still run a business. And I'll tell you what, I made more last year than I made the year before that. How the heck did that happen? Okay, so that's not a boast. That's not saying that, oh, I'm so good at business. This got nothing to do with that. All I'm saying is there was an opportunity where one could be going with the flow and say, hey, we are experiencing unprecedented times. COVID has taken over the world, and we cannot run the race that we wanted to run effectively or as effectively. But now, look at our businesses that are experiencing huge growth. Everybody wants to go out. Everybody is dying to go to have some leisure outside their four walls at home. What was that? What was the cause of that? And what drove these businesses to continue persevering when many other businesses failed? And I feel for a lot of these other businesses because they didn't really have a choice anyway. They had whatever situation that they had that really caused their business to demise or to diminish. But how did I use my own situation as an opportunity for personal success? And it was knowing that I can pivot. So it's okay to survey the landscape, and just use that analogy like we're in a war, and to see the enemy from afar helps you develop a better sense of strategy. And I pivoted the business, and it gave me an opportunity to capitalize on certain strategies that I hadn't employed before, and it was fruitful, it was beneficial. And 2020 was a good year. It was a year that I had not experienced before, and thankfully it's put me in a really good position to say that I'm just one story of success. It's not. My story hasn't stopped. I will still face my challenges, and I will still experience hardship. But you know what? It's that relentless motivation for the pursuit of personal success that says, you can have me down, you can put me down, you can limit me with your words, and you can tell me all the lies, but I have a personal belief that there is nothing you could say that can stop me from achieving my dreams. So people like that, people like Gez, these people, these are the people that you need to be around, because personal development, it's a daily thing. Self-mastery, that's a daily thing. We need to go from being codependent, relying on others, to being independent. And that's relying on what I can control, and then achieving self-mastery through interdependence. And I think that's really important, because then we start to see the value of others, the people in your team, the support group, these people, this podcast, the people that are there to get plugged into, to uplift you. So important. Don't neglect it. Gez is a real benefit to this earth.
What an awesome episode that we have and just experienced just now. So, for more information, how you get in touch with Gersom, and if you feel that this podcast has really resonated with you, all the links are provided on the show notes, so you can reach out to him and you can connect right there and then. So, if this episode has been very helpful and uplifting, we would love for you to write a review to inspire more listeners to get plugged in. We will continue to provide high value content in each of every episode. Now, if you don't mind sharing this podcast show on social media by inviting others, it would mean the world to me. Every time you tag me and the podcast guests as well, we will get the opportunity to share those posts, and together we can make a difference in the lives of others through inspirational episodes just like this. So there you have it. In closing, is to continue to unleash your greatness and tell yourself that I can, I will, and I must, and see you on the next episode.